Now, members, I'm going to begin to read testimony from people who were unable to testify before the House Committee. These were people who came to the Capitol and waited many, many, many hours for the chance for their voices to be heard. And unfortunately, the chair of the committee hearing that testimony at one point around 1 a.m. made a decision that no longer would testimony be accepted, in his words, because it had become repetitive. An answer to that was provided very poignantly by a young woman who was there to testify, apologizing that the chair believed her testimony on such an important issue was repetitive, when for her, it was her individual story, and she felt her individual right to speak on the impacts of legislation like this. Because that testimony was not allowed, I thought it particularly appropriate today to use the opportunity with this microphone in my hand to give voice to the people who were not able to provide their voices as part of that testimony, because that is truly what we are to be, representatives, senators who are elected to serve our communities and to give voice to them on this Senate floor. Below are 31 testimonies that I have received from people who had registered to offer testimony at Thursday's State Affairs Committee meeting, but were denied the opportunity to do so. Regarding House Bill 60 and House Bill 16, authored by State Representative Jody Laubenberg, June 20th, 2013, from Amy, I'm sorry, Amy, if I mispronounced your name, Arambide, or Arambidi, House District 121, Representative Strauss. Thank you, Chair Strauss and committee, for allowing me to testify. She was going to begin. I live in House District 121, and I am a constituent of Chair Strauss. My name is Amy Arambide, and my father, Dr. George Arambide, or Arambide, was an abortion provider. He was born in Chicago to a single Mexican immigrant woman who worked 3 jobs at a cannery during the Depression to provide for her 3 children. My father put himself through college and then medical school and started off his career as an anesthesiologist. After a 20-year career as an anesthesiologist, he went through residency again and became an OB-GYN in the early 70s. In addition to a full-time OB-GYN practice, he began performing abortions in the mid-70s, shortly after Roe v. Wade in San Antonio, and traveled once a week to provide reproductive health care at a clinic in Laredo. Growing up, I knew my father was a doctor and delivered babies, but I didn't understand the extent of his profession until one day when I was in the 5th grade. A fellow student and her parents told me that my father killed babies, and I was aghast. I knew he delivered babies. He delivered me, but I didn't understand what they were talking about. I went home and confronted my parents, at which time they explained to me what an abortion was. I didn't understand. My father explained that while keeping a baby or putting up a baby for adoption were options, many girls and women were options that many chose. Sometimes that was not truly an option. Many of his patients were really young or didn't have the means to provide for a child, and that being pregnant could end many of the opportunities that could better a woman's life, like getting an education. I still didn't really understand, so my father decided to take me to the clinic, to Laredo, to give me an idea of the women that he helped each week. We drove through an impoverished town that I could hardly believe was in the United States that I grew up in. The waiting room was filled with women and girls from all over South Texas, girls that had no other options for reproductive health care except this one clinic for hundreds of miles. The girls were as young as I was, around 12, and I could tell that they did not grow up with any means. After this trip to Laredo, I realized that my father was a hero. He helped women and girls that had nowhere else to go and who didn't have many options. He provided care, health services, and an option that could make their life better. The first year I lived in Austin, I got harassing phone calls from a gentleman looking for Dr. Ehrenbeid's son. When my roommate told him that Dr. Ehrenbeid's daughter lived there and not a son, he demanded to speak to me. He said that he worked with my father and owed him money. He wanted his home address so that he could send the check. When I told him that my father had worked at the same address for 20 years and he could send it there, and when I asked him for his contact information, he refused. That's when I realized just how dangerous my father's job really was. Contrary to what some witnesses may say, the doctors who provide abortions are heroes, and you cannot do this work unless you truly believe in women. My father wore a Kevlar vest to work every day, had an FBI agent assigned to us, and chose houses in gated communities because he received threats from the violent opposition every day. In order to work one day a week in Laredo, he paid more in malpractice insurance than the money that he made there. My father was a hero. He believed that every woman deserved a chance to make her life better. He believed in access to education and choices that would facilitate that. My father provided comprehensive sex education and knowledge and choices for me that allowed me to go to college, go to law school, and plan my family when I was ready. Because of his influence and what he did for women, I have two beautiful boys that I am ready to raise in a world that I strive to make a better place. This next testimony is from Nancy Cardenas from Austin, Texas. As a woman, I have struggled to understand how something as personal as my body is constantly a part of the political battleground. Furthermore, as a woman from South Texas, I am appalled that abortion clinics in the Valley that provide excellent and safe health care will no longer be available. Women seeking safe abortions will have to drive hundreds of miles for the health care they deserve. Senator Bob Dole called clinics, quote, money centers, end quote. The purpose of these centers is not to make money, but to give women access to excellent health care and safe abortions. These centers cannot afford an extra $40,000 per month. Imposing these regulations will not only shut down 37 clinics, but leave women who do not live in Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston to fend for themselves. Why don't we look at this bill for what it really is? A political maneuver that strips away the right of a woman to choose what to do with her own body and puts it in the hands of men who are more interested in fulfilling a religious, political agenda. What this bill does is disenfranchises certain sectors of the state, like El Paso, and actively discriminates against rural areas of Texas. Why don't you actually sit down and talk with your female constituents? We are voters. We have a voice, and we are responsible enough to make decisions over our own bodies. This bill strips the basic right of a woman to control her own body through one of the most difficult decisions of her life. House Bill 60 takes this decision out of the hands of a woman, her family, and her doctor, as it neglects the complexities of reality. I ask you to oppose HB 60. Thank you for your time. This testimony from Samantha Fredrickson of Austin, House District 48, Donna Howard. My name is Samantha Fredrickson. I am a woman, a Texas voter in Representative Donna Howard's District 48, an attorney, and a person of faith. I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I strongly urge you to oppose HB 16 and HB 60. The legislature has no business regulating what I choose to do with my own body. I am very lucky in that I have not had to seek an abortion. I am also very lucky that I live in a country where abortions are safe and legal should I have to make the difficult and painful decision to ever have one. Please don't take that choice away from me. If I or any other woman out there needs to seek an abortion for whatever very personal reason, I would like to know that it is a possibility. These bills would make it nearly impossible for women in this state to seek a safe, legal abortion for whatever reason they choose to. I am new to Texas, and I've lived in lots of different states. Before moving here, I was never very concerned about women's equality because I felt that the law respected me and treated me as fully equal. I thought, oh, times are not like they were in my parents' and grandparents' days. Women truly do have equality now, so why should I be worried about it? But frankly, since moving to Texas, my opinion on the matter has drastically changed. The law in Texas treats me as though I am a second-class citizen. I love Texas. It's a great place to live, and I hope to stay here. But I do not appreciate that my legislators do not respect me or treat me as an equal citizen. After everything that generations before me fought for, it is incredibly unfortunate that I live in a state where none of that seems to matter to the lawmakers. Please end this war on women and do not pass these bills. They will do nothing to protect women and are not crafted with women's health care in mind. A woman's right to access family planning services is vital to her ability to succeed in life and in her career. By severely limiting a woman's ability to choose when and how she will have a family, the legislature is curtailing women's possibilities. And the message this legislature is sending with these bills is that a woman's role is solely to have children. Whether or not I or any other woman chooses to have children is a choice that only we can make. The legislature needs to stay out of this decision. Please stand up for women's equality and reject these bills. Women are smart. We are smart enough to be able to make a decision about how to plan a family without the legislature interfering. And as lawmakers, the women of Texas are looking to you to ensure that our rights and interests are protected. Please do your job and reject this legislation, which is detrimental to the health and security of all women in Texas. Thank you.